Life inside South Africa's toughest prison, Brandvlei. Imagine a place where survival is a daily battle. A place where gang leaders call the shots, violence erupts in an instant, and hope is a rare commodity. This isn't a post-apocalyptic movie. It's the reality of Brandvlei, one of South Africa's most notorious prisons. But how did this place come to be so infamous? And what does life behind its bars tell us about the state of justice and society in South Africa? Let's explore the hidden world of Brandvlei Prison. Brandvlei Maximum Security Prison sits in the Western Cape, surrounded by mountains that seem peaceful at first glance. But behind the razor wire fences and steel doors lies a world most would rather not think about. This prison, originally designed for medium-risk offenders, now houses some of the country's most dangerous criminals. But what's most striking isn't just the crimes these men committed. It's what happens once they're locked away, how they survive, adapt, and endure in a system plagued by overcrowding, violence, and corruption. Today, we'll take you inside Brandvlei. This isn't a story about sensationalizing crime. It's about understanding a system that reflects the broader struggles of a nation battling inequality, poverty, and systemic failures. A history of overcrowding. Brandvlei was never intended to be the fortress of chaos it is today. Built in the 1970s, it was a modest facility designed to house a manageable number of inmates. But as crime rates surged during apartheid's decline and the early years of democracy, South Africa's prison population exploded. Today, Brandvlei is overcrowded to a dangerous degree. Designed to hold 1,000 inmates, it often houses double that number. Overcrowding has turned it into a powder keg of tension. Imagine living in a cell built for 10 people, but crammed with 20. There's no privacy, no room to breathe, just constant noise, heat, and the looming threat of violence. The power of gangs. One of the most defining aspects of Brandvlei is its gang culture. South African prisons are dominated by three infamous gangs, the and the. Each gang has a role in the prison ecosystem, and their influence is absolute. They are the smugglers. They control the flow of contraband, drugs, weapons, and cell phones. They act as the enforcers, using violence to maintain order or carry out revenge. They are the most feared, known for their brutal discipline and warrior-like mentality. Joining a gang is often a matter of survival. Refusing can make an inmate a target for violence or exploitation. Loyalty is demanded, and stepping out of line has severe consequences. Gang life inside Brandvlei isn't just about power. It's a twisted version of protection and identity. Many inmates come from communities where these gangs already hold sway, making the transition to prison life almost seamless. A day in the life of an inmate. Life in Brandvlei follows a strict but bleak routine. Mornings start early, often with roll calls conducted by guards. Breakfast, if you can call it that, usually consists of porridge or bread. For most inmates, it's barely enough to fill them up. The rest of the day is spent in a mix of activities. Some are assigned to work, like cleaning or kitchen duty, but most spend their time confined to overcrowded cells. With little to occupy them, tensions run high. The lack of resources is staggering. There aren't enough beds. So many inmates sleep on the cold, hard floor. Sanitation is poor, and diseases like tuberculosis spread easily. For many, surviving the day is the main goal. But what makes Brandvlei especially harrowing is the ever-present threat of violence. Inmates must always watch their backs. A simple misunderstanding can lead to deadly consequences. The role of corruption. Corruption is the unspoken rule of life in Brandvlei. Guards, underpaid and overworked, are often complicit in smuggling contraband. Drugs, phones, and weapons make their way into the prison with alarming regularity. Bribery is commonplace. Inmates with money or connections can secure better treatment, extra food, a safer cell, or even protection from gangs. Those without resources are left vulnerable, at the mercy of both the gangs and the corrupt system. This corruption undermines any semblance of justice. It creates a hierarchy where survival depends not on the law, but on power and influence. The psychology of incarceration. The psychological toll of being in Brandvlei is immense. For many inmates, the mental strain is as brutal as the physical conditions. Isolation from family and loved ones, combined with the constant threat of violence, leads to severe depression and anxiety. Some inmates turn to drugs, smuggled in by gangs, as a way to cope. Others retreat into themselves, becoming numb to the chaos around them. There's little access to mental health support, and the stigma surrounding mental illness means most suffer in silence. For first-time offenders, the transition into this harsh environment can be especially traumatic. Many enter as petty criminals and leave as hardened offenders, shaped by the violence and survival tactics they've had to adopt. A broken rehabilitation system. South Africa's prisons are supposed to rehabilitate offenders, but Brandvlei is far from meeting that goal. Educational and vocational programs are scarce and often underfunded. For those who want to turn their lives around, the resources simply aren't there. Classes and workshops are limited, and access is often controlled by gangs or corrupt officials. Instead of preparing inmates for life outside, Brandvlei often hardens them further. Many leave more dangerous and desperate than when they arrived, contributing to the country's high recidivism rates. Stories from inside. Amid the darkness, there are glimmers of resilience. Some inmates use their time to reflect and find ways to change. A small number have taken up art, writing, or religion as an escape from the grim realities of prison life. One former inmate, who chose to remain anonymous, shared his story. I joined the gangs at first because I had no choice. But after a while I realized I didn't want to live like that anymore. I started writing poetry, and it became my way of surviving. I won't lie, Brandvlei broke me in many ways, but it also taught me how much I want to be free. These stories are rare, but inspiring. They show that even in the darkest places, the human spirit can endure. The bigger picture. Brandvlei isn't just a prison, it's a reflection of South Africa's broader social challenges. High unemployment, poverty, and inequality create the conditions for crime to thrive. Many inmates grew up in environments where survival meant joining gangs or turning to crime. For them, prison isn't a new world. It's just an extension of the struggles they faced on the outside. Addressing these root causes is essential if we want to break the cycle of crime and incarceration. Investing in education, community development, and job creation could prevent many from ending up in places like Brandvlei. Lessons from Brandvlei. Brandvlei is a stark reminder of the failures of South Africa's justice system, but it's also a place where human resilience shines through. Reforming prisons isn't just about improving conditions inside. It's about addressing the societal problems that lead to crime in the first place. Until then, Brandvlei will remain a symbol of a broken system, where survival often comes at the cost of humanity. Behind Brandvlei's walls lies a world most of us will never see. A world of struggle, survival, and the occasional glimmer of hope. It's a harsh reminder of the challenges facing South Africa, but also of the resilience of the human spirit. If we truly want to change the future, we need to start by understanding places like this, because they hold the key to a better, more just society.